Richard Price, founder CEO of Academia EDU, and I'll be your host as we dive into another piece of academic work today. Thanks as always for tuning in, whether you're taking a walk, prepping dinner, or, hey, even procrastinating from that paper you've been putting off. No judgment here. So, today's episode is all about a project that steps way outside your typical museum or gallery. We're discussing paper, a distinguished curatorial statement of consciousness, Bonne Vie, Baliadi Bhaban, and the making of a Greco-Roman Lapidarium in Dhaka, authored by Chowdhury, Irad, and Siddiky. Remember, my role here is to neutrally present the research. I'm not endorsing the project, its arguments, outright. Instead, my goal is to help you unpack the work, see its wrestling with, and connect it to your own questions about identity, culture. So let's start with the question. Why on earth would someone build a Greco-Roman lapidarium, a kind of museum filled with busts, columns, and inscriptions in heart of Dhaka, Bangladesh? What does this mean? A city that, famous for its textiles, Andic shores, frenetic urban, not for European antiquities. Chowdhury's paper digs into this fascinating problem. How can physical spaces, shaped by aesthetic and historic values, encourage us to consciously remember and engage with in an age of, distraction, amnesia? Now, why does this matter for you? Well, if you've ever scrolled past an old family photo on your phone, skipped over plaques at a historic site, you brushed up against this issue, how we remember what matters, and what does it mean to actively curate memory rather than just let it fade into the background. So let's dig into some key ideas from Siddiky's statement. The Bonne Vie project at Baliadi Bhaban isn't about art like trophies or just creating a spot for Instagram selfies. Siddiky argues it's a kind of disciplined theatre of memory. Imagine walking through a space, private even domestic, where stones, columns and inscriptions aren't decorations, but are active reminders of civilizations and values that shape thinking for centuries. Here's kicker though. The lapid isn't simply importing history to Bangladesh. Instead, the project tries to start conversation between European classical forms and Bengal's rich intellectual traditions. Bengal has its own lineage of poets, reformers, and educators, so it's not like Dhaka is being colonized by, if you will. Siddiky sees this as a hybrid, a place where Renaissance humanism and Bengali thought interact, kind of weaving the and the global together. Okay, but how does that actually work? The Lapidarium draws design inspiration from classic European museums, courtier libraries, but it itself within the hustle and, sometimes chaos of modern Dhaka. It's an act, according to Siddiky, of civilizational stewardship, taking responsibility for memory at a time when so much culture is digital or flattened out by mass media. It's maybe worth pausing here to say, the idea of historical consciousness is a big topic in academia. We're talking about how choose to remember or forget, what they build monuments to, what they sweep under the rug, as are ideas to consider, not pronouncements of absolute truth. Let's shift for a second, because thinking about that word lapidarium, it literally means of stones. In this context, Siddiky is reaching something. Stone is a symbol for durability, gravity, maybe even resistance to the way our skips around. It, asks us to slow down, look, dwell, even a little uncomfortable. Have you ever stood in front of an old monument and had this little run down your spine? That sense of, wow, somebody cared enough to make this so we'd remember? For me sometimes I get that staring like old subway tiles. Anyway, back to the Sids says this isn't escapism. Building a Greco-Roman lapidarium in Dhaka is meant a cultural intervention, a challenge to that the global south only receives, never shapes heritage. It wants to show private spaces, family homes, can become centers for public memory and humanist reflection. So, what's in it for you? I think the big takeaway is that curating memory isn't just for, say, historians or museum directors with PhDs. It's something all of us participate in, whether we're archiving family, preserving community, just pausing to reflect the things and people that made us who we. To wrap up, I'll remind you, I'm noting criticizing Siddiky's vision. I think it's a provocative entry point for asking, what do we want to remember? How can the spaces around us serve that mission? And how might we bring a bit more intention, and maybe even beauty, to our daily acts of remembrance? For me, in depth, with academia, keeping that work isn't writ. It's invitation to think, to argue, and to imagine things differently.